As you can see, besides the volume indicator, I use just one single indicator in my trading. And here it is on your screen. These are moving averages. Because of this, I often get questions from my subscribers. Artem, why don't you use indicators A, B, C, D in your trading? And so on. They list all the indicators that the guys use themselves. Most often these questions are about indicators. RSI and MA are sitting. So today we will talk about the RSI indicator, how it is used most often and why I don't use it. I have been trading on the Bobit exchange for the last 2 years. It is the top 1 platform in terms of trading volume and liquidity, which means that your orders will be executed here at the best prices and with a minimal probability of slippage. Just by doing this, you'll save a few $100s a month compared to trading on any other exchange. In addition, there are low fees here and you can get bonuses for signing up through my referral link. From the description, you'll receive a gift of $50 to $30,000 depending on the size of your deposit. Right now, follow the link in the description, then click on this button and check the size of the bonus you'll receive for signing up. On average, my subscribers receive about $100 for registering on the Bybit exchange, but if you have a large deposit and a corresponding trading volume, you could get up to $30,000 as a gift. The link is below, sign up, it will take just a few minutes. To open it, we go to Trading View, go to Indicators, and here we type in RSI. What is RSI? This is the Relative Strength Index. If it's set to Russian for you, by the way, it will be called by its Russian name. We click on it and there it opens up from the bottom. RSI is one of the most popular indicators because it helps, well, kind of prevent bad trades and on the flip side shows you good moments for potential entry. Most often, this indicator is not used alone. That is, if I look at the moving average in some trades, I can open just based on some signals from the moving averages. The RSI won't help us at all to open a trade on its own. It's usually used as a supplementary indicator. In what way? So let's first take a look at what it's made of. It's usually used as a supplementary indicator. In what way? So let's start by paying attention to what it's made of. First of all, there's this line, the purple one, which moves in a range from 0 to 100. The range itself is from 0 to 100. It's also divided into a mini range from 30 to 70. And you can notice that when it exits the range of 30-70, that's our line, that's our indicator. In the case that it goes down, this area is colored red. If it goes up, then this area is colored green, and the area above is colored green. This is called the overbought zone, and the area that is colored red at the bottom is called the oversold zone. This indicator is often used when considering a trade for reasons unrelated to it. For instance, check the indicator's status at the time of trade consideration. If planning to go long and the indicator shows overbought conditions, it's not ideal to enter a long position. Conversely, if considering a short position and the indicator shows oversold conditions, it's not the best time to enter a short. Additionally, obviously this is not the best time to enter a short, and some specific moments, well, like for example here we have oversold conditions and a bad entry point for a short at this moment. Indeed, you can stretch it by the ears. Look at what the indicator predicted, how good it is. It shows that you shouldn't have gone short, but what if you start building long positions in the oversold area? Oh wow, look at that, I would have entered right at the bottom. Yes, you can really find some specific moments this way. Let's scroll left once more and see where the oversold entry was. In the past, well, the oversold condition was at the mark of $20,000 for Bitcoin, after which it kind of went sideways for a while and then dropped another 30% down to $15,000. So, does that mean that you shouldn't be entering shorts here? And does it mean that you should be entering longs? Well, no, there are some levels here. There was a small bounce, but entering long positions there in a downtrend is not great. Now let's look a bit further to the left. Here it was oversold at the mark of $35,000 for Bitcoin, after which it dropped even lower. Until at one point it bounced back even within the downward trend. But does that mean you should thoughtlessly go long here? Actually, yes, in this case you would have made a profit, but I, for example, don't do that, and I don't engage in such foolishness myself. If we look at it within the context of an uptrend, when we have overbought conditions, the situation can be much more dire than it seems. He just pointed out the oversold zone. Why? Because in the overbought zone during an uptrend, the price can stay there for quite a while. So what about the oversold zone? So sometimes there are bounces from it, and you can even open a long position in a downtrend, as we figured out, and catch a small impulse here, maybe a bit more. In this case, for example, it's really small, but you could still catch some impulse. Yes, it did go a bit lower at one point, but that's not a big deal. Theoretically, you could have made some profit. But here, well, I'll open a short. Here, let's say it's very small. Well, it would also be possible to catch some kind of impulse. Yeah, it did go lower, but that's not a big deal. You could have made some profit. Here, I'll open a short. In the overbought zone, I'd lose money. The overbought zone, for example, in the overbought zone, that wouldn't yield anything at all. I would end up losing money. Look, the overbought zone started right here at $33,000, and Bitcoin rose almost without a pullback by 50% from $30,000 to $48,000. Here, it was initially in the overbought zone, and then, as it continued to rise, it moved out of the overbought zone. How does it work? This thing works with momentum. So if we're dealing with some kind of vertical surge, it will indicate overbought conditions. If the rise is gradual, steady, and slow, well, for example, here it seems to have slowed down the momentum, then we have the overbought zone. We're also getting out, and as you can see, in such situations, it won't help at all. So, if I was going long here, should I take profits in the overbought zone? Yeah, no, well, look, in that case, I didn't make enough profit. Alright, maybe that's one example. Let's take another example. Well, here, the overbought zone started at $49,000. Take profits at $49,000, but I wouldn't have made enough profit. The price then went up another 50% to $70,000. Yeah, you can find some moments where the absolute highs were... Indeed, there was one there too, the overbought zone. So what? Well, I mean, the overbought zone was also 30% lower right here. At some point, let's say, even if it wasn't the absolute maximum, if the price had gone higher, there would have been some kind of overbought zone here too. Yeah, and at some point, really, if not here, well, then here some downward movement would start. And you can stretch it to say that right here, the overbought zone really played its part. But no, as you can see, the overbought zone has absolutely no effect. Moreover, pay attention, I opened the default standard settings. Someone might say that if you poke around here, what about some of those... The arguments for the RSI length, for example, are not 14. I don't know, maybe enter 50 and adjust accordingly, not the 30 and 70 range, but say 40 and 60. Then there will be some different signals, more important, stronger ones. And in general, Artem, you shouldn't just look at the overbought and oversold zones, but rather at those moments when the price... Well, not the price, more precisely, when the value of this indicator crosses those zones. And indeed, some people stretch certain strategies and might use the RSI differently. But in the standard understanding, as beginners most often use it, looking at the overbought and oversold zones, it works poorly. Especially poorly with the overbought zone. With the oversold condition, well, at the moment of the last bear cycle, it really was... I just showed you two moments where you could have taken a small bounce. Well, it's clear that standing against the trend is risky. Standing against the trend is risky. But nevertheless, yes, I even changed the settings of this indicator just now. You can see that there's some kind of oversold zone. Yeah, we bounced off it and we just barely touched it. We bounced right here, we just barely touched the oversold zone. There was also some small bounce. However, right, here we also touched the oversold zone. So, it turns out that at one point we went down another 20%. Let's take a look. Maybe it's precisely at the moment when the indicator shows a return from the oversold zone back into the standard range. And this is happening right here. You could really catch a small bounce of about 15%, but notice that even after that, it went down another 15%, right? From the high here, that's a drop of 27%. So the signals here don't really work as such. As a safety measure, if I want to enter a trade and there's an overbought zone, I can't go in there. That doesn't work either, because in strong trends, it's clear that it will hold for a long time. The zone of both overbought and oversold. If we're talking about potential trades, not at the moment when the price, well, not the price, but rather the indicator value is in a certain zone, but about moments with crossovers. That makes a bit more sense. In my opinion, I do too. I used to use RSI in my trading and MACD as well. At the beginning of my career, I later realized that it didn't make any sense, but it does make a bit more sense to pay attention not to the overall movement in a certain zone, but to the crossover of specific zones. But it makes a bit more sense to really pay attention not to the overall movement in a certain zone, but to the crossover of specific zones, and maybe you'll find some values for this indicator that will actually start showing good signals in a certain zone, but at the crossover of specific zones, and maybe you'll find some values for this indicator that will actually start showing good signals. But no matter how much I used the RSI indicator, I couldn't find those values. It is absolutely, in my opinion, it's useless in trading. If you found such values, please share them in the comments. I don't really need it overall, but someone might look at the comments, see what you wrote, maybe your values, the magic ones, they'll set them up too. They'll just go poking at their balance. Just please don't write random values, don't troll, because guys are really, some might go and lose their money. Why do you need that? You have to take that kind of responsibility on your own conscience. In general, I don't recommend the RSI indicator. The next video, similar to this one, will be about the analysis of the MACD indicator. And by the way, if we compare these two most popular indicators, RSI and MACD, I used both at the beginning of my career and then stopped using both. I gave up on both. But if the RSI is completely useless, the MACD, I found my own settings for it that can really show a good level of overbought and oversold zones. But that will be in the next video. We'll break this down further. RSI. I don't recommend it, I explained why. If you disagree with me, feel free to write in the comments. If you want to read an alternative opinion, check the comments too. I'm sure many traders will write, I use RSI for a number of reasons, 1, 2, 3. Maybe they'll even write down their own settings, but please not again. If you're a beginner, blindly believing in some magical settings of a magical indicator, and going to lose your money on that is not the way to go. I, for example, don't use it. It doesn't bring in any money. So what doesn't bring in money just adds unnecessary clutter on the screen and you need to get rid of it. At least that's my opinion. Some people have a different opinion. Here you can read the comments. I think they will write, subscribe to the channel, check out my other social media links below like Telegram and Instagram. There's more content there and it's more up to date. Good luck!